Welcome, I'm Jon Caldara, president of the Independence Institute and your devil's advocate. A little later in the program, Senator Bob Hagedorn is going to come and talk about pot and booze, and that'll be fun. But first, let's do a little year in review. You know this guy. You don't like him. He precedes my show. He takes away what little audience is here on Channel 12 and disperses them. Dominic Dezzutti from Colorado Inside Out.
I was expecting more of a thank you for all the viewers we bring to your program with the pithy analysis on Colorado Inside Out.
Can we be honest?
Be a first night for the show, for sure.
If women didn't fall down and break a hip, nobody would be tuning to either one of our TV shows.
I am grateful for both the infirmed and folks that haven't fixed the remote controls. All of those folks we embrace wholeheartedly as part of our viewership.
It's good. All right, beyond scaring away viewers, you're a keen political observer. You do a blog on Channel 4, and you keep your ear to the ground. I think 2013 was one of the most fascinating years in Colorado politics for a vast number of reasons. But let's talk about it. What will 2013 be remembered for?
I think 2013 overall, you have to see overreaction and reaction on both sides of the spectrum. When the legislature came in and focused everything on gun control and those laws, even though only 4 passed, people will remember there were 7 proposals. They got a lot of attention, a lot of headlines. It brought in Mayor Bloomberg to support some issues, became this big national focal point.
He didn't bring in Bloomberg. Bloomberg brought the laws in. Let's be clear.
But either way, he became part of the play, a player here, and part of the story. That was an overreaction to what was going on in 2012. Then you had 11 counties put on their ballot for November to secede from the state. Now, you can be upset about your representation at the Capitol, but to secede from the state is an overreaction. And I think in the middle, you saw the recall elections, which I'm not going to call them an overreaction, but were definitely stemmed from how the pendulum swung wildly throughout 2013.
2013 is going to be remembered, I think, as a citizens' action year. That this was a year, I know 2 years ago was supposed to be the big Tea Party year, 2010 was the big Tea Party years. No, this year was citizens leaping over the heads of elected officials in all sorts of areas. And it was also a time where I think the rest of the state of Colorado stood up to be noticed. Colorado has always had great representation from the rural areas. That's Colorado. But right now, for 2 reasons, we have a remarkably metro-centric government. We have a governor who is a mayor, and almost all of the seats after redistricting, drawn by the Democrats, reach into suburban or urban areas. So there's no reason why rural counties are pissed off, is there?
I certainly get the point. I think Ed Seelever made the point a few months ago about, well, wait a second, this is going to hurt all those Democrats that are running in rural districts. Oh, wait, there aren't any Democrats running from rural districts. But the secession points and the recalls, I'm not sure the right way to react. I think you're going to see in 2014 some more attention being paid. While it's not going to be, we're going to secede from the state, they have the governor's attention. I don't know what that's going to translate into, though.
That's not going to help. I mean, right now, rural people are pissed, and I think rightfully so. You've got a government and a governor who is just callous to their points of view, doesn't understand the gun culture, obviously, dismisses them. Oh, this might be a small inconvenience for people in the rural counties. The rural electric bill that passed, putting renewable mandates on there, is going to cost a fortune for people in rural counties. And there's the progressive elitism of Denver Central, which has been building so well for the last decade. The whole Tim Gill, Pat Stryker model of putting this infrastructure together, I believe, has come to a crescendo in 2013. They were able to pass the things they wanted to pass. They passed gun control, they passed their civil unions, and the worst bill, I think, the most dangerous one, is the election reform bill, which legalizes a lot of mischief.
Well, you made some news. You made some news about doing your own mischief on that one this year.
Well, I follow the law.
That's true.
I follow the law.
You make very good points there, John, but on both the gun laws and the renewable energy part of it. But the other part of 2013 that I think weighs into there, especially with Governor Hickenlooper, is the damage from the flooding and the fracking issue. On those 2 issues, Governor Hickenlooper finally saw an uptick in something where I think at least your independents in the rural areas could point to, well, this isn't terrible. They can still have things that they're arguing with, but there's a little bit of evening there. It doesn't fix everything.
No,
a little bit of evening.
You know, the governor is there to lead. He's supposed to take tough decisions. That's why it's a tough job. It's why he gets a nice mansion to live in. It's why he gets a chauffeur and bodyguards. It's a tough job. He knows the truth about the fracking issues. He didn't weigh into these fracking issues.
He stopped all that
No.
whole thing you're talking about. They really wanted to push those bans. None of those happened.
The 4 bans were on the ballot. He didn't weigh into those.
Those local communities.
And by doing that, he has opened up the floodgates for what's going to be in 2014 a larger issue and a larger statewide initiative, which he's going to have to weigh in on.
Not fighting those issues in each one of those communities didn't cause a statewide fracking ban to come in next year.
Oh, I disagree.
I don't think he could have made his own campaigning in the middle of Broomfield and said, "Hey, we should really fight this one, or the other one's going to pass in Boulder."
But he didn't even.
That's not where the fight is.
Comment about them. It's almost the same way.
He didn't comment about the education tax either.
Exactly. The guy who said, "I'm going to work on this," and pledged his support. I was there at the press conference in front of the school with all the kids, because that's how you raise taxes. There he was singing the praises. He's the one who did the fundraising behind closed doors. He's the one who called up Bloomberg.
He did some fundraising, but this was not a classic Hickenlooper proposal. If it was, you would have seen the creativity come out. I think it got done without him.
He
had to support
the damn bill.
He had to sign the bill.
He didn't have to sign anything. He's the governor. He didn't veto one bill. 500 bills passed.
Over 400.
Over 400. I'm sorry. Go. Over 400 bills passed, not a single one vetoed.
And that will bite him in the tail. That's absolutely true. But when it comes to the education tax and the fracking thing, those fights weren't going to be won in this November. I think he was a smart enough politician to know the education tax was going to go nowhere. Probably didn't know it was going to be beaten 2-1.
You know history.
I try to.
Just like me. There are tax increases that this governor, when he was mayor, did not make happen. But I remember him riding the choo-choo trains to pass fast tracks. I remember him falling out of airplanes to raise taxes under F, C, and D. That guy campaigned hard for that, for tax increases from A through I, for property taxes, for the new jail, for pro-comp, for teachers. He was there. Now, he's the mayor of Denver. He's not part of RTD. He's not part of the Denver schools. He's not part of the state government when he was a mayor, but he took a lead. When you're governor and you stand up at the press conference and you tell supporters, we're going to get this thing passed and I'm on board, you have to take ownership of it. That's the cost of leadership. You own it. The thing that I think is going to stick with him is the Dunlap decision, where he didn't put the guy to death. All he had to do was stay out of it, and Dunlap goes to death, or he could have given clemency.
Right.
Now, people can have very good debates on that, and I think both sides have valid points, but you make a decision. Now, Dunlap and his family and loved ones are hanging in limbo until the next governor. The victims' families are hanging in governor. And what's so beautiful, the irony is, this whole year was about reacting to mass killings. That's why we had to take away magazines. Right. All right? But here's a mass killer, and you couldn't make a decision about it.
I think
the lack of leadership this year, there's no getting around it.
The Dunlap decision in 2013 absolutely was a major point against Governor Hickenlooper. He found that Ritter-esque moment of being able to tick off both sides of the aisle. But I think whether he was hopeful or maybe it can come back to 2014, will either his own party in the legislature come up with a death penalty ban to help him out, or if the public wanted to actually approach us with a ballot issue. I don't think that's going to happen, but it seemed to me he was hoping to say, well, if I delay this, the community will decide what they want to do.
The community decided. There's not a single poll out there that says, give this guy clemency. Now, it doesn't mean that's a bad policy. It means you make a decision. Getting back to the core of this year, I see that the left that has put together in the last 10 years this incredible machinery to take over all branches of Colorado government and bring in the changes they wanted to bring in, I'm wondering, have they hit their high water mark? They have overreached. This was a reaction to that overreach. 3 state senators forced out because of recalls.
Right. 2 officially recalled.
2 officially recalled.
Urged.
One was going to get yanked. And you knew that was the only way that was going to play out. this is a lot of citizens trying to take back what they think is a government that's gone too far.
I think you did hear from angry voters one way or the other, whether it's the secession movement or the recall elections or even people saying no to the education tax. However, the Republican Party has not answered yet with the kind of leadership or gamesmanship that they're going to be take advantage of this point. I think you make a very good point about how Democrats probably overreached 2013. Maybe it was too much. And if the Republicans were ready to take advantage of this point, then we're looking at 2014 that's going to be an epic battle. I don't think they're prepared for that fight.
Nobody has been tougher on Republicans than me. You know my first political axiom.
And you're absolutely right about that.
There is nothing Republicans can't screw up. That said, this was an incredible year for Republicans in the minority. Mind you, they shine in the minority. It's better, right. they do. But this is a time where they stuck together not only on the gun issue, which is tough to do. I think about the tax increase as well. There's always 4 or 5 Republicans that when you say tax increase for kids, they switch. Not a single one did. You know, so throughout this
But let me ask
throughout this race, when the governor or Senator Johnson would say, we have this great bipartisan support, say, which elected Republican did it? Republicans acted like Republicans for the first time in a long time.
Do you think that came from, though, the fact that they were in solidarity, or because it was such a huge price tag? There's part of me that wonders if they would have broken that up into different pieces. I'm not sure it would be 4 or 5, the tax increase. Right. Instead of it being $1 billion and being for gym class and music class like you saw in their commercials, but you broke up into different things, I think that may have broken up that unity. Again, that unity was effective, but I think it was more about the price tag being $1 billion. That's a lot of money.
I don't know. We're still in sluggish times. You know, I know the federal numbers have been changed around, so the inflation looks like it's not that high. Well, you go to the grocery store. I mean, good God, you go to the grocery store a lot. Look at you. You know the cost. It keeps going up. So we can't afford, even small tax increases are going to be tough to get through. And I think what really shined through was there was no guarantee it was going to go to your kids. It just went to the system. Oh, it's going to be reformed. People couldn't understand the reform. If it was going to their kids, they would have voted for it. But at 2 to 1, and you know what? If I was Hicks' advisor, I'd say people like you. Go own this stuff. You didn't own this campaign. You're going to get tagged with it. Man up and own these things.
I don't think the campaign is tagged to him because he didn't. That's exactly the reason.
He signed the damn bill. He said he would support it. He was there.
That means so little to your average Colorado voter. He wasn't its cheerleader. Right now, people are even thinking, what
does that say? It wasn't his cheerleader?
Was that even there? He wasn't the cheerleader, so they can't blame him for the loss. Well, the loss goes to the fact that the campaign was trying to be too clever. They made it about gym classes and music and not about what education should be about.
There's never been a tax increase with $11+ million. I don't care what the ads were. They could have bought those. You know, this thing was a no for a reason. All right, go back to your other shows. Stay tuned.